Good morning and welcome to the Workforce Observer. We're delighted to introduce Neil Bryson, Chief Growth Officer at MBO Partners, a leading global talent solutions platform that optimizes engagement between enterprise clients and high value independent professionals. Neil is also the author of Sunrise Warrior, Timeless Wisdom on Transformational Leadership, and brings nearly 30 years of expertise in the staffing and services industry. His focus is on leveraging innovative technology, including AI, and platform based models to solve business challenges and maximize ROI. Welcome, Neil. Really happy to have you here.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Happy to be on the podcast myself. Thank you.
So, thank you. So, let's get into it. What are two, surprising insights from MBO's latest State of Independence report, and how is that shaping the independent workforce landscape?
It's interesting. I mean, independent work has kind of moved far beyond its outdated reputation, right? It's no longer seen as uncertain, which is interesting in uncertain times right now. But the numbers from our report tell an interesting story. 65% of full-time independents feel more secure than they did in their traditional jobs.
Wow.
84% are reporting being happier. And about 79% say they're experiencing better health because of that. I think that's because they just have more control over their lives, versus what they were
Yeah.
traditionally used to in the past. The
Right.
second
Right.
thing that I think is really interesting is how much millennials and Gen Zs are making up the independent workforce. I think most people's perceptions are that the independent workforce is usually older people, later career
Yep.
type professionals, but
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
research shows about 59% of the independent workforce right now is Gen Z and millennial, which is up from 52% last year. So,
Right. Right.
younger workers are entering as independent professionals right out of school.
Yeah. Which is
Bringing, yeah,
yeah. Yeah, yeah, which is unusual. So, and I mean, I know you've been tracking it since quite a while. The State of the Independence report is not a new report. And do you find that on the whole that the number of independent workers stay the same, or is it like dipping now? How do we have any information on that?
yeah. So, according to our research, right, about 72 million Americans are working independently right now,
Okay,
which is a pretty striking number.
right.
And the number of full-time independents has doubled since 2020 to now 22.7 million. So it's quite a growing population. I
Wow.
think COVID had a
Uh,
lot to do with that, right? I think people
right,
wanted to start their own businesses and work independently, and give
right,
them the
right.
flexibility and freedom, especially in the midst of getting, return to work mandates and things like that, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's also an opportunity, and like you said, interesting enough, older professionals like me, right? I mean, I've worked for the longest
And
time with
me, and
SIA.
me. Yeah.
I worked for the longest time with SIA, but then there is a thing, oh, I've done a lot of this. Let me try this.
Uh,
So there
mhm.
is that as well, especially after COVID, as you pointed out. So, economic shifts, federal layoffs, they're all making headlines, right?
Mhm.
How are these clients affecting MBO? How are these changes, affecting MBO's clients and talent strategies?
Yeah, well, like I said earlier, I think our clients are navigating considerable uncertainty right now. Political, economic pressures, right, including getting pressure to rapidly advance AI and other
Right,
technology disruptions, right? So all these factors are making long-term planning very challenging, I would say, in this environment,
right,
right? So
right,
ultimately, in talks with our customers, their number one concern are costs right now. When things are uncertain, it's like, how do I control my costs in those environments? Because I have goals to hit, I have numbers, I have investors to appease, if you will. And so there's a
right.
lot of tightening, right, of budgets. But interestingly enough, we're seeing in our space growth in our sector, right? More independence that they're tapping into. Again, you and I have been in the contract staffing world for a very long time. I mean, it offers you a
Yeah,
lot of flexibility to control your costs and swing them up and down when you need to, right? So,
you're right, right,
and now this independent population, they're just more experienced professionals, right? And they bring in higher level skills, and they get faster results and give them greater flexibility. So, look, I think the the market's going to continue to evolve, and
Right.
companies will need to adjust their workforces. And that's where people or companies and clients like ours ask MBO to be their trusted partner to help them understand how to get access to this independent talent so they can still accomplish their business goals in all this uncertainty.
It's very interesting that you should say that because, the staffing industry for the last 2 years, roughly, has been, has taken quite a downturn, right? And typically, and yet the GDP has been, with growing GDP, usually staffing performance is better. But
Yeah,
it's not been like that. It's been quite a strange market, right?
it
And I
has.
know now people are talking about the market coming back, but yet independents have been doing well. Do you have any reason? What's the reasoning behind that? And I know this is a little bit, I mean, it's like people are saying, oh my God, things are so bad in our industry, but yet companies like MBO, because they're using, I guess, high value independent workers. So give me a little bit of background on what's the, what's the dichotomy in this as opposed to this?
Well, I think Sabadra goes back to like they're highly skilled niche providers of talent, right? So, I mean, even when, let's say, the unemployment rate is low, and I think that there is, as we said, uncertainty in the market. There are certain
Right.
people that you have to go to get certain work done. I mean, people don't understand a lot of the work that we do at MBO is with the big four, consulting firms. So a lot of things
Mm,
I hear when I talk to customers is, I'd love to get access to that talent without having to pay big four prices all the time. There's certainly a time and place to engage those organizations in big transformational projects. But when you have small projects and things you just need to get done internally, do you want to pay five or six, $700 an hour, or can you get access to that same talent for half the price? So I think that
okay.
that's why they're doing so well. Is these small business owners are doing a very good job of marketing themselves, and I think there's organizations like MBO that are bringing platforms to market that allows these other organizations to access that talent a little more
Right.
quickly and directly than they normally would have to, even going through like a staffing agency.
Got it. And it is a great segue into our next question, which is like, I guess we talked about the Indian workforce surging. What's been MBO's role, unique role, I think, in driving that growth? What would you say?
I think that our unique role is bringing that talent and the clients together in a seamless, frictionless process, right? So, we're doing a lot of innovation right now and investing in platforms that allow to provide for like a two-sided marketplace, if you will, where the client and the independent can engage in a constructive way, but not through the traditional supply chains, if you will. A lot of as you know, the supply chains are usually pretty cut and dry processes, no contact, all that kind of stuff. If you
Right.
want to access an independent, they need
Right.
to talk to the hiring manager. They need to understand, what is the project that I'm actually going to do for you? And do I need to
Right.
bring more talent with me to accomplish that business
Right.
objective for you as an organization? So I think that's where we're excelling, is we're creating more of those frictionless processes and investing in platforms and technologies to do that. We're investing in generative AI so that we can help them fine tune the project to make it easy and consumable for the independent, so we can match the right talent. So all of those things, we're like an agent in between,
Right.
but we
Mm,
just don't act as a traditional staffing supplier.
right. Okay. So, given this, what do you think is your toughest hurdle, you know, in um, in scaling this workforce, and how are you tackling that?
Yeah. So I think one of our biggest challenges is scaling that independent, right, workforce solution, because there just isn't that many of them, right? So, there's plenty. We're talking about the population growing, but the number of projects and the amount of demand certainly is outweighing the supply, right? So, I think that the gap is for our customers, and they're having obviously missed opportunities because they're not getting access to that talent.
Right.
But like I said, we're tackling those business issues and problems with our clients by implementing these unique processes that we do to bring the
Right.
independent worker and clients together, right? The our employees are experts, right? I've been with MBO for just over a year, and I can't tell you how impressed I am with the level of talent inside our organization with 30 plus years in this industry. It's not easy to understand the uniqueness and complexity of working with independent talents because of all the complex regulations that are associated around them and making sure that
Right.
you're protected from a risk management standpoint. So,
Right.
they're excellent at building these systems and making that engagement simpler. But look, we also don't just find talent or give you access to the talent that you've already engaged with at a future date. I mean, we also we're an innovative think tank, right? So we provide like leading industry resources like our State of Independence, which I was quoting earlier, the Digital Nomad Report, which is out there and people can access. And again, we have our innovative technical platforms like Market Source. We have our crowdsourcing tech. I'm sorry, not Market Source, Marketplace,
Right.
and our crowdsourcing technology, MindSumo. So, we're able to connect creative thinkers to organizations to do real problem solution for them in their organization. So I think that's what, those are some of the unique things we're doing, but it's an ever evolving problem, right? Because
Sure.
there is just tremendous demand right now. I wish we had, more access to talent. And we're doing everything we can to try to source that talent so we can bring it to our customers.
And I'm assuming there's this talent you source, it's global. It's not
Yep.
just the
Absolutely.
the United
Absolutely.
States. Right.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, those nuances are different depending on the market, right? On how
Right.
you source that
Right.
talent. But yes, absolutely. We cover the globe right now.
And the sourcing is done internally by MBO or using different methods. Is that
I tell you, it was really interesting for me to join this organization coming from staffing because sourcing was always half the problem, is
right?
trying to find that talent. And,
Right.
in the independent space, clients willingly and freely give you this talent. And you're like, I can't believe the level of talent that you're giving me, right? But because we're a
Right.
compliance and risk management company first, right? So we make sure
Right.
you're working compliantly and in a risk less way, I should say, so that you're protecting your organization. But once we get engaged with them and understand the skills and capabilities of these people, it's tremendous the amount of opportunity that they have and for us to actually introduce them to other clients, when that project's done, or if they're not going to engage with that particular client in the future, right? So it's
Oh, how
really
interesting.
it's a
Interesting. So you're
redeployment
saying,
model, right? Yeah,
right, you're saying that they have consultants and they go through you because then you manage the whole compliance, you mitigate their risk, and then when the projects are done, they have no problems in because these small business owners or these independent contractors become part of your sort of pool, and they can go back to these clients or go to new clients. So
right.
you're actually using the client to source, in
I
one
mean,
way.
we're not using
Wow.
them; they're giving it to us, right?
They
So we're
give
like,
it,
okay,
I mean,
well, yeah,
using as
yeah,
in, yeah, it's a
yeah. So
channel.
I mean, it's
Wow. Okay.
incredible. I think I've in staffing, I was always trying to solve the problem of redeployment. I think every staffing company is, right. You want to keep that resource working. The resource wants to continue to work, right. The number one ask of staffing or payrolling companies is keep me continuously employed. So, but when you have a tremendous range of talent from $25 an hour up to 300, that's hard to do across the entire spectrum, right? Where we play, our average rates are $125 an hour or higher. So, I
Right.
mean, it's a lot easier to engage in more like a personal relationship with our talent and find the right opportunity for them. And also, it's a lot easier for us to have a conversation with buyers of this talent to say, hey, these, like as I said earlier, they're different. You can't just say put them in the supply chain and when the rec comes, fill it. They're not interested in that kind of work, and they don't have to be because they're in such demand. So if you want access to a 4-star or 5-star general that used to work at the Pentagon, they're not going to enter into a supply chain. That's not what they do, right? They're going to want to sit down with you and understand the scope of the work and what am I doing and what's the meaning of this work, the purpose, all that kind of stuff. So that's where I think that's where we're really making a strong differentiator for MBO right now.
Okay. All right. I guess EOR and AOR solutions, right?
Yeah,
They're creating
yeah,
major bus and workforce management. What's
yeah.
driving their rise and how is MBO capitalizing on this trend?
Sure. Look, it comes down to kind of speed and scale, right? That's why it's growing so much, right? So, especially in uncertainty, they look for the flexible talent, right? So, companies need to grow fast. They still have growth targets, regardless of everything that's going on around us right now. So, often
Right,
across global and multiple regions, like we just talked about. So,
right.
and that requires navigating complex legal challenges, right? And as well as keeping up with new technologies and all that kind of stuff. So, classification and compliance are still major hurdles and will continue to be that way. And I don't foresee that getting much easier. I mean, who knows? With the administration, it could, but laws vary widely across different jurisdictions, and most organizations just don't lack the specialization and expertise to handle all that stuff. So I think that's why our solutions are in, not just MBO, but a lot of AOR, EOR solutions are in demand right now.
Right.
And there are plenty of EOR companies out there right now
Yeah, yeah.
that are really good. There's not a lot that are AOR and EOR, right? I find there's a very few of us that sit in both those spaces
In
and do
both
it
those
well.
places.
Just to be
Yeah,
honest, so
yeah.
an MBO can do both, and it's interesting to me too, being on this side. I feel buyers of talent, they feel like, well, I'll just bid out the EOR and AOR separately, and it's funny because a lot of times, you have to have the conversation to say, look, the AOR as a standalone, unless you're using a tremendous amount of independence, isn't a financially viable model for anybody. So you really need both the payrolling and AOR together to support it, so that you're providing that level of service, especially that the AORs require. And don't forget, the AORs that are engaged in your organization are usually the highly visible, highly
Mm,
connected. They're talking to
mm,
the C-suite, right? So you want to take care of those people, right? You want to make sure that you're giving that white glove treatment, because they're the first ones to go to the people that are going to make the loudest noise, right? So
right,
all
right.
of that stuff is really important. And I think, we're just trying to stay agile in this fast changing kind of marketplace right now. And as things continue to evolve, I think we'll continue to be there for our clients and help them solve those business problems. So
Your book, Sunrise
the book.
Warrior.
Right.
Yes, is a call. It's a call for vulnerable, compassionate leadership.
Yeah.
What sparked you to write this, and how has its release and general being out there in the marketplace changed your perspective
Yeah.
on leadership?
So the inspiration behind Sunrise Warrior honestly kind of came from me hitting a wall personally, right? And I hit it pretty hard. So kind of from the outside, it looked like I had everything kind of dialed in: a successful career, decent income, perfect family, cute, basset down dog, all that good stuff, all the boxes checked. But inside, I was kind of quietly falling apart. I was anxious, I was burned out. I think a lot of senior executives feel this way once you hit a certain level in your career, and constantly started to wonder, like, is this really it? I've kind of reached the mountain and it's pretty lonely. Top of the mountain, it's kind of lonely up here. Is this everything? And you're kind of looking for more meaning, right? I had everything you needed to be successful, but the joy, fulfillment, sustaining happiness, I was just kind of sleepwalking through life. I thought I was doing all the right things. And look, personally, I'd been in therapy for years, and I think most high functioning executives, with the pressures we go under, you do seek therapy at times to help handle just life in general, but nothing ever clicked for me personally. Like it was just more of a panacea to, the therapy was wonderful. I had great therapists, but they just kind of kept me upright. They were treating the symptoms and not curing the problem.
Yep, sure.
So I just decided I couldn't live like that anymore. And I walked away from my job, took a leap into the unknown, went on a journey of self-discovery. And that included, among other things, an ayahuasca retreat in Costa Rica. And that turned out to be kind of out of this world wild, but profoundly healing. So, but that's when everything shifted. And as I was going through this, I realized there's a lot of other people that are out there quietly struggling, right? Silently suffering, chasing success, but feeling disconnected. So I wrote it to kind of connect with people, right? And offer those people
Right.
not a how to live guide, but it's like an invitation to remember that there's another path, one that doesn't require you to keep just climbing higher to achieve success, but to go deeper inside and kind of
Right.
ditch the ego driven hustle, but find your way back to kind of truth, connection, and really to your heart. So look, if
How
it helps
long
one
did all
person,
this How long did all this take? Sorry, not to interrupt, but how long
No,
did
no,
all
that's
this take?
okay. So, I mean, probably a year and a half. I'm about a year and a half. I'm a year from the ayahuasca retreats that I did, but I did a good 6 months of self discovery and prep work before I went on that
Oh,
retreat too. So, yeah, I mean, look, writing the book didn't just change how I lead; it kind of changed how I live my life. So,
and how is that approach to leadership worked at MBO?
yeah, so I think the difference is kind of clear for me, right? Leadership is yeah, I'm defining it in different ways, right?
Okay.
So it's not just about success and results. I think it's about being fully present, genuinely caring about the people around you and communicating openly, right? So look, we still do prioritize performance over results, right? And I'm just trying to motivate leaders now so that they kind of lead with balance, empathy, and compassion. And that's helping me influence our leadership to make sure we're attracting the right people to be part of MBO and be part of our organization. So, I mean, it's not just happening in our company, it's happening, I think, I'm trying to lead by example, and we're starting to have conversations and how to lead with even our independent workforce and our clients too. So it's been really an interesting journey, and it's never finished. It's always a work in progress, but I'm really proud of it. And people can find more out about it if you want to read the book, or they can contact me directly. I'm always open to a conversation. So
And he has the book right behind him.
I do right there. Yeah,
Right
there it
there.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, thank you.
So
Thank you for being
yeah.
honest. So in terms of like what's the next big move for MBO to redefine how enterprises engage independent talent? Is there anything that you're working on? Is there anything that you can share?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, well, I can't share it. I'm gonna have to leave you on a cliffhanger here, but our next big move is kind of a deeper integration between our core services and generative AI. So
Okay.
we're using that technology again to create a better talent client engagement experience. So we've been investing a lot of time and resources in that. So I'm really excited about it, and I can't go. I wish I could go into the details. Maybe you'll invite me
That's
back,
okay.
and I can
Yeah,
talk about it. But I can
absolutely
assure
happy
you,
to.
it's pretty groundbreaking. And it's meant to shake up the industry. So on how you access independent talent. So
Oh,
I'm
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
As
And
my
I'm
as my
assuming,
friends say, as my friends say
yeah.
in the UK, watch this space. So
All right. And I'm assuming it's obviously not direct sourcing because
no,
that's, yeah.
no,
Okay.
no, no,
All right.
not at
No,
all. Yeah.
this don't want to. I know you don't want to give anything away, and you can't. So, but we'll be excited to hear what's going on when you can actually talk about it. So, where's the future of work headed, and any prediction you have for the independent workforce?
Yeah, I think as we go through our research, I mean, Miles will tell you, the CEO of our company, right? I think we believe the majority of the white collar professionals out there in the near future are going to be independents. I don't think it's a passing trend. It's kind of a fundamental shift, right? Where
Or
the employee employer model's changing. It's been changing since COVID.
yeah,
I think people want more personal independence. They want more flexibility in their lives, and they're willing to take the risk to start their own businesses at this point and say, "Look, I'm willing to work with you, but in more of a contract nature, and I want to make sure that I'm in a position to manage work and life, but also make sure that I'm working on meaningful work, not just work that's just handed down to me and what I'm told to do." Right. So I think people are looking for more purpose, kind of tied to my journey. So I certainly was. And I think a lot of people are feeling that way. So I think companies that learn to work effectively with those independents will be the ones that succeed. And
right.
if you want to access that talent, you better have a great process for working with the independent workforce and kind of throw out the outdated views of like it's more expensive and it's very risky and all those things. I think if you sit down with experts like us and really have a good conversation, we can actually show you that it's really less risky and even more cost effective than the way you're sourcing talent today. So
Right. I mean, it just struck me while you were talking. Are all independent workers typically, I mean, the high-end independent workers typically 1099s?
yeah, typically they are. Yeah.
Okay.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
obviously we do W-2 as well, but yeah, they're
Yeah.
predominantly 1099s. Yes.
Okay. All right. There's a whole other area.
We could have a
Uh,
whole nother podcast. Yep.
I know, right? Another time for this. So, what's your top advice for independent workers and your top advice for enterprise clients looking to do well in today's market?
I think for companies, making it easy for top talent to work with you, right? So, like fast onboarding, timely payments to them, interesting, meaningful work, which I've talked a lot about, clear communication. That's going to attract and retain the right talent for your industry and create a long-term relationship with that independent, which is, I think, what you
Right.
really want to do when they're starting to invest in your IP. I think you
Right.
want to retain them and have them continue to help evolve your business model. So, removing those friction points in your
Yeah.
organization so that they can help you get work done is where you can absolutely win. For independents, we tell them like treat your work like the business it is, right? Keep learning and evolving, build your personal brand, collaborate with clients on platforms, talent companies, right? That support your success. But most importantly, I just said companies make it easy to work with independents. Independents make it easy to work with you too, right?
Right. Right.
So look, for everyone else, this is a major transformation in what's going on. I think, I mean, SIA has been talking about the growth in the independent workforce for years, and it's really happening, right? It's happening right underneath everybody's noses, and
Yeah.
it's only got the press in the last couple of years, and it's surging. Even despite uncertainty, even despite the search for talent or war for talent, all those old terms that we've used, it's where the best talent is going, and you just need to
Mm.
make sure that you have an ability to access that talent if you want to really use them to have a competitive edge in your business, right?
Right.
Because they're going to bring the fresh ideas and new innovation that you need to give you the differentiators you need to succeed as well. So
Neil Bryson, a pleasure. Thank you for your insights. Thank you for your time. And we will
thank you.
definitely have you back. Thank
All
you.
right, thank you very much. It was a great time. Appreciate it.